On this episode of Raising the Wild Ones podcast, we got our guest here, Justin Dillard. He's over there. He's a good buddy of both me and Caleb's.
You know, your dad died and he's haunting your house and you think it's your dad haunting your house. That's not your dad. That's something pretending to be your dad.
And there's plenty of biblical stories that back that claim right there up.
Well, we go to bed that night and she has this big, tall, 12-foot vaulted ceilings in her house. And on the living room wall are half logs. So it looks like, and they're made of real wood. It looks like a log cabin on that wall in her house. We're the only people home. Her son's with his dad. And in the living room, her bedroom is literally the other side of the wall. The bed bumps into that wall I just told you about. At the top of the wall, I hear pounding.
Raising the Wild Ones podcast.
Welcome to Raising the Wild Ones podcast. We're in the middle of trying to discuss if a dad joke is appropriate tonight. And you know what? We're trying. We got our guest here, Justin Dillard. He's over there. He's a good buddy of both me and Caleb's. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Yeah, why not? Go for it. If you guys be the judge of this dad joke, you tell us if you think it was good or not. I think it's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Don't worry, your kids can listen to this joke, but it's a good one. Take it away, Justin.
All right, so Moses and Jesus, they're hanging out by a river, and they're just chilling, they're talking, they're reminiscing. And Jesus looks at Moses, and he goes, man, can you still do that cool trick where, like, you parted the seas? Can you do that still? And he's like, oh, man, absolutely. So he parts that river, and it's crazy awesome. Well, the water resides and goes back down, and Moses looks at Jesus. He's like, bro, can you still do that walking on water thing? And he's like, dude, absolutely. He said, well, you want to show me? He said, sure. And he gets about 3 steps out there and just sinks. He comes out splashing and getting out of the water. And Moses goes, Jesus, what happened? He said, I forgot about all these holes.
It's just as funny the second time. I won't lie. The first time you told that joke, I was going to think that like Jesus was going to get out there and Moses was going to part the seas and he was going to fall.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of expecting too, yeah.
Which would have been just as funny. That's a good one. That
Dude,
is a good one.
I will tell you, man, I think God's got a sense of humor, and I bet Jesus does too, man. I would not at all be as if we got there and there were some pranks being played like that.
Also got to say, is my dad used to always say that God's got a sense of humor because he makes the hair stop growing on your head and start growing out your nose and your ear. And he's like, yeah, God's got a sense of humor. Like you can't not have a sense of humor.
And that starts happening about 30, I think.
Oh yeah.
I looked up one. I looked up like a Halloween joke. What is the problem with twin witches? You never know which witch is which.
Oh my gosh, man.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Here we go.
I always really enjoy bringing in these like weird, awkward dad jokes that.
Oh, they're good ones. I had an awkward dad joke the other day. I wish I could remember. Maybe it'll come up at some point. But
yeah, it'll happen.
If you haven't guessed by now, which maybe the witch dad joke would have tipped you off, we are talking like spiritual warfare, paranormal stuff, weird things, and all that kind of fun stuff. And so I guess before we jump in, Justin, do you want to like tell us just like real quick, like your background? Maybe is that a good place to start, you think?
Yeah. Like my background of me or my background in that area?
I mean,
let's start with you.
Yeah, like with you.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start with you, then we can move into that. Yeah.
All right. I'll try to PG it up. No, that's terrible.
Hey, it's your testimony. It's your testimony.
Hey, I felt like I did a good job when I gave it. I couldn't stop. As soon as I got to the part about my daughter, dude, the waterworks set in, man. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Heart like Pharaoh, man. But no, man, I come from I come from an interesting background. My dad died when I was pretty young. He liked to. I won't get into why, but I don't think he was a very good person and a very good adult. I think he started finding Jesus there in the end, but I think everybody gets close to God when they know they're close to death. But I grew up and I I started, looking for fun things to do and being a young teenager and a young adult. And I've done a lot of really stupid things. I've made a lot of huge mistakes in my life. I spent the first good portion of my life not following God, not making any efforts, and you wonder why your life is terrible. Maybe because God's not in it. Just an idea. uh, uh, I've done plenty of partying and plenty of sinful acts. I could probably get deeper into that, but I don't want to dive too deep into that. Just because listeners, Uh, but yeah, I've lived a pretty sinful life. I'll just say that, a very sinful life. I at one time was sleeping with multiple women. I would chase different women every night. I was a bar fly. I would go to the bar as often as possible. It was at least every weekend, at least every weekend, and sometimes during the weekdays. And that's just what I did. I had it set up so well that if I went to one bar, I would go to that bar to chill out, relax. I wasn't looking to meet up with anybody or do anything. But if I went to the other bar, it's because I was going there to chase women. And it became a game to me. I was really good at it. There was a lot of alcohol. There's a lot of other things involved. Like there was a lot going on in my life. But as a young adult, I started chasing after some stuff. You're not following God. You start looking into the supernatural. Things like that really intrigue you, and you don't realize that the things you're chasing aren't ghosts, they're demons. And you don't realize that until it's, I'm gonna say, too late. uh you can always fix things, you can always change, there's nothing God can't do. But uh man, I've seen some pretty crazy things, man. I It wasn't until uh I had some really, really bad stuff happen in my life that I started stepping away from that, because I started realizing that when you start looking for evil, evil is what you'll find, and it will follow you. And
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
people don't realize that. There's plenty of people that'll be like, oh, but what about whatever that paranormal show is? I always called it Jocks with Cameras, because they run in there and they act really tough, and then they run out screaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but it's nuts, man. The devil is a deceiver. And I think one of his best tricks is to prove to you that God doesn't exist. And there's plenty of people in this world that will tell you that ghosts are real, demons are real, and the devil's real. God's not real, and that makes no sense. How can you have one without the other? And I don't like to use the term ghosts, because I don't think they're ghosts. I think they're it's all demonic entities, and it's things that are pretending to be that. If you have something, your dad died and he's haunting your house, and you think it's your dad haunting your house, that's not your dad. That's something pretending to be your dad. But
And there's plenty of biblical stories that back that claim right there up. Like we've talked on here, was it the Witch of Endor where
Oh,
calls
yeah,
up
yeah, yeah.
Samuel? I mean, things like that. It's like, and then she's
Well, that's my.
surprised when he shows up. She's like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" It's like,
I mean, because the thought
yeah,
process behind that passage is that like she has her familiar spirit. She has the demon that she's communing with to do all this stuff, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna call up Samuel, and then the demon's gonna show up, and oh my gosh, it's actually Samuel. Oh, and it's. I mean, that's
yeah.
kind
And
of
I
the
heard,
whole thought process there.
yeah, and I heard this on another podcast recently where it's like people have, and I mean, I'm not saying this is just something I heard that, people and families can have certain entities attached to them over time. And we've heard this as far as like generational curses and things like that, where, you have these entities that are attached to a family, let's say, and then in that situation where you go and say, call on a medium or something, and that's how they can know so much. Well, it's because it's this dark entity, this demonic spirit that has been following a family around for
yeah,
generations, and it's real easy to get into that. But I
Yeah,
want to say real quick,
interesting.
jumping back for a second, I really appreciate you sharing any part of your testimony. I've always thought that your testimony, you're an awesome example of what God can do and the grace God can give to somebody. Whereas you had a rough time in your life, but you're an inspiration to me and my wife, and we always tell you that because I think Justin shares the gospel more with people than just about anybody I've ever seen. So other than say somebody who's preaching, on a weekly
Right.
basis, I guess. but
I
it's really
it's
awesome.
almost
And
like
we yeah.
it's a weekly occurrence that Justin's like, oh yeah, I was working with this guy today, and he said he wasn't a Christian. So you know what I did? I was in the truck with him for like 2 hours. So I told him about Jesus. And it's like that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
give this guy
So
Justin right here a captive
yes.
audience, and it's gonna tell him about Jesus. It's gonna happen.
Hey,
Yes.
I forgot myself, man. Like
So I do want to make sure we get into how you got saved, but go ahead and continue. We may get into that kind of towards the end and how you came out of all of this. Maybe a good way to do it.
yeah. Well, you know what? I'll just take a step back and I'll get into that first, and then I'll move into the other part. Um, so what got me saved is I have done a lot of things. I've been around a lot of people. I've been involved in a lot of bad things in my life, and it's by the grace of God that I'm still alive. Um, I I've I've had guns pointed at me. I've been in sketchy situations. I've partied in big cities and wound up at houses I shouldn't have been at. And like there's so many stupid things that I've done in my life. I'm sure if guardian angels are a real thing, that mine is probably pretty hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just, man, before I had my kid, my I just kind of started realizing that I was not a good person. Uh, and that became a self realization to me. Uh, I started noticing that, uh, as I was growing up and people were growing up around me, I was, I was a piece of crap. That's the best way I can say that. I was not a good person. I was the person that your parents warned you about. You know what I mean? Like when you get older and you grow up, I don't want you to be like this guy. That was me. I worked a job. I held a job, but that's about, and I had my own place, but that's about all I did. Other than that, I went to the gym and I worked out and I partied, and I lived a very, very simple life. Me and a church member, uh, I won't say his name because I don't know if he's cool with that, but really good friend of mine, great guy. We used to party together back in the day, and I totally forgot that I had his number in my phone, and I forgot about the last time we met where I picked him up in my Blazer. I was so tore up. I was so messed up. I didn't even remember that. And we wound up meeting up at church at Rocky Creek, and for like a year straight, we didn't even talk to each other until one day we're at the dinner and we're sitting on either side of this table, and I was like, hey, do they call you blah, blah, blah? And he was like, yeah, yeah. People used to call you Franco. I said,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what's funny about that is how small our church has grown quite a bit, but at the time it probably there probably wasn't like a ton of people that were at the church. So you not talking to him, it was probably like very obvious that y'all were avoiding each other.
Oh yeah, probably, dude. And it was funny too. We were both apparently like in our heads, we were like, is that the guy? I don't want to be weird. It might be the guy. And
Yeah.
so we just never did until that point, man. And dude, he's an outstanding guy. I appreciate that you say that I'm an inspiration to you, but dude, he's an inspiration to me. That guy never misses quiet time. He reads his Bible every day. He prays
Oh,
every
he
day.
does.
And I do my best, but man, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. Like those aren't good excuses, but like I'm a busy man, and so it just sometimes it doesn't happen, man. And
Yeah.
and I look at how he does that, and I'm like, wow, you came from where I came from, and look at how good you're doing. It blows me away. And but back to the bean farm. So I started realizing that I was just a terrible person and a piece of crap, and I started trying to change my life for the better. Uh, and I just started trying to act better. I tried to stop doing certain things and move on to better things. And I left someone in my past that didn't want to change, and I started acting uh, different, but I was still stuck in the same motion. I wasn't following God yet. And then some time goes by, and I meet my wife, and that we loved each other, and she's a great woman, but I drug that lady down some terrible roads, and bless her heart for sticking with me.
Yeah.
I there was a lot of things she'd never been introduced to until she got with me, and that's what I'll say. Uh, she used to make jokes and tell me that she thought she knew, or she thought she liked bad boys until she got with me. I'm the only dude she's ever been with that has offered physical violence towards someone she cared about to her face in front of everybody. Like I was not a good person. Now, in my defense, it was because they said something mean to her, and I was like, "Well, that's not happening. Let's just do this in front of the whole family." Because I've always been very protective over my wife and my family. It's what and I was a different person then. So to me, that meant something different than it does today.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's been a really good woman, man. And make no mistake, I don't want anybody to ever think that, oh, he was abusive. That never happened. I don't hit women. I don't believe in that. But uh, man, I catch myself there. But some time went on, and I won't get into what happened. But we split up for about a year, and we'd been together for like 5 years, and I've married for 5 years, and we split up, and then I wound up meeting somebody and having a kid, and then we worked things out and got back together. And prior to us splitting up, I was like, I'd started to follow God. I really started working on myself. I was still living kind of sinfully, but I was, there's it doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I started going to church. I'd even got baptized, and I was trying to work my way there, and my entire world fell apart, every bit of it, and I didn't know what to do. And that's how I have a kid. I wound up we we had splitting up, and that was what tore my world apart. And I went back to just destroying myself. I immediately jumped back into sin because I'm stupid. I tried to lean on God, but it was, I don't know, just something drug me back, and it was my fault. There's no excuse. It makes, to this day, I've told my wife, man, during that moment of my life, I feel like I was given a test and I failed, and it hurt. Because I don't want to hurt God. But I
Real quick on that. I was going to say real quick on that. You know what happened to Jesus after he was baptized? He was led into the wilderness, and in that situation, basically the only person that can I guess keep that from happening is Jesus.
Oh,
Everybody falls back into sin at another time, and it's hard, but that's what we're all working towards, trying to get better. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I wound up, I went to destroying my life. I fell directly back into sin. I went back to not all of my previous ways, but at least a handful of them. And let me tell you, that doesn't work. And so we wound up. I wound up having a child, and while that was happening, before she was ever born, me and my wife started reconciling and working things out. And I had to explain to my wife that I had a kid on the way, uh, and that was crazy. Like I've said it a bunch of times. God looked over and said, "Bro, what are you doing? Oh, you want to act like a child? It's cool. I know your heart, bro. Now here's a kid. Now you have to grow up." Uh, and so it was like it kicked me into overdrive. I jumped up. I quit doing everything. I sold everything I owned just about to change my life. I worked multiple jobs. I did whatever I had to do, and I stepped back to where I needed to be. It's like God just kicked me in the face and said, "Hey, bro, you don't get it. Let me help you." So but me and my wife, we reconciled. We got remarried, and things are working out, man. I wound up finding a new church, and that worked out really, really well. And I will tell the band story why I quit the band. I'll give that one. But I wound up, I started playing music with the church, and everything was going great. And I was doing great, and I was following God, but I was still playing for a secular band and playing music and going to bars. And I was trying to ride both sides of that line, and can't do that. God made that very clear to me. and I remember I'd shown up to the gig, and I'd already, like, the last couple of gigs we'd done, I felt like I didn't need to be there. And I showed up to this gig, and at this gig we played, we always ended up on the little stage, and this time we were on the big stage, and it was a great thing, but I felt like I needed to go home. Like, you don't need to be here. You need to, not just in a musician's world of out of pocket, but I just felt like I need to leave. But I couldn't, because I'm like, well, I'll let my bandmates down. So I get on stage and I try to play, and I play the first song, and I immediately realize I can't do this. And so I have a microphone next to me. And so I got on the mic and I hollered at my wife and I said, "Hey, babe." And she said, "What's up?" I said, "I need you to do me a favor." She said, "What's that?" I said, "I need you to go get me 2 Jack on the Rocks." And for everybody that doesn't drink, that is 2 glasses with whiskey and ice in it. That's it. It's usually a double or a triple shot of whiskey. And I took both of them and I turned them backwards. Boom, boom. And I handed them right back to her and said, "Bring me 2 more." And she did. And I slammed those and I played. And I'm here to tell you that you can try all you want. You cannot shut God up with enough whiskey or alcohol or loud music in the world. It's just not possible. God's too loud.
It's called conviction.
Yeah.
The whole gig, I felt super uncomfortable. I was like, I just wanted to end. And the gig ends. I didn't tell anybody bye. I didn't help pack up. I didn't do any of it. The show ended. The singer said, "Hey, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are such and such band." And I walked off stage, walked right up to my wife and said, "Let's go home. I need to go home." And she goes, "What's the matter?" I said, "I can't be here. I can't do this." And we left, and I didn't look back. I didn't go back. I made a decision there that I wouldn't play music. Like, I'll play all kinds of music, but I will not be in a band that is playing secular music ever again. I won't. And I told God that. I said that if I'm ever in another band, it'll be a Christian band. And lo and behold, I'm now in a blues rock Christian band.
I mean, I really like kind of like you talk about the story, and I've heard that story before, and it's one of my favorites. And the only reason I say that is, like, as a bass player, like, if I just have like 1 sip of beer, my groove's gone. Like, there is no way I could play good bass. Like, I have to be focused. And I'm like, and so I hear that story from Justin, and it's like, this is a good drummer right there, just saying. But then at the same time, you talk about, like, conviction, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you're right. When God convicts our hearts, and when he, lays something on your heart, like, this is what you need to do, it's like you can run from that, and you can run from that from a long time, but it's still going to be there. It's like you can't cover it up enough. It's always going to be there in the back of your mind. Just be like, "Oh, this is not really going to help solve the problem." You know what's going to solve the problem, and it's just a good testament to conviction and how it works in our lives, and how God convicts us to do things to help follow him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. It is nuts. God, and it's funny because whenever I think I'm doing really good, I'm on a good track, I've changed so much about myself, God puts something else on my heart and says, "Nah, now you got to change that. See, you've come this far. You can take another step." You know, uh, and I used to be the tough guy that didn't cry. I just didn't. I was a mean individual, and I felt like that made you a man. Being a man was being a bad dude and never showing fear. And now, just over some conviction, it'll put tears in my face. And whenever I was really starting to seek after God, I asked God to soften my heart, because everybody had these feelings, and it was like I was having trouble feeling conviction about things, because I'm so used to being tough and mean, and you're a man. It's what you are. Someone steps to you, you handle it, and then God did a really good job of softening my heart. A good portion of that is my 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I catch myself hearing her say things, and I'm like, "It's so cute."
Yeah.
But
You're braiding hair and all sorts of things, painting nails.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. There's nothing like your daughter going, "Dad, do you want to paint my nails?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I do my best to be like, Dad, can you do a braid for me this morning? And I'm like, no, we got to go get mommy for that one because Daddy ponytails. Daddy used to have long hair. Daddy can't do braids. But no, man, I've had a pretty crazy go at life. I've done a lot of things, man. I've got a lot of terrible stories, a lot of messed up stories. Man.
Well, so I guess this will be a good time to kind of step back a little further back into your life to some of those. So it's October, so we want to hear some of the spooky stories, and you can kind of lead into how that started. And
I got a question.
Or Dustin has.
Well, I got a question. It'll jump into that, but you said earlier when we started talking about this, the idea of like you know what it is now that you were experiencing then. Did you ever like while you were doing that and while you were kind of the paranormal or whatever, did you ever like have a glimpse of crap, that's demons? Like did you ever like can maybe see that a little bit and be like that's or was it just still like you're in that, oh well, I don't know, or I don't know, just kind of wondering from like, because I mean this is before you were saved, so I'm just kind of like the idea of,
so like a secular point of view of
from a secular point of view of the paranormal.
So no, I don't want to say that I didn't believe in them because I did. But a lot of the times when I would run into things that were like definitely not good, this is bad stuff, I would just in my head assume, well, this is a really angry spirit, which is not true. But man, it's funny when it to give people just a small little quip of how far away from God I was. I used to just be afraid to die because I didn't want to not exist. And it was funny because I lived a very stupid, terrible, dangerous life all the time and did dumb, dangerous things a lot. So I was like a walking contradiction. But now, instead of being afraid to die because I don't want to exist, I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of going to hell, as everybody should be. I'm afraid of the separation from God. But that's how far away I was, and so it's an interesting mindset to be where you're talking to people and you're going and seeing these things. You're going to cemeteries and you're going to people's houses, and then this stuff goes to your house. And I wound up. Let's see, where should I start? You know what? I'll just start at the beginning. Me and a certain individual, whom I'm related to, me and him decided to start up a little organization in our town where we would go look for paranormal stuff. And we got pretty serious about it. And we even made a name. We had some pretty cool equipment. And I've seen some terribly scary things. And what made me stop doing that with him was that he started faking things. And it was very obvious that he was faking. He's a very, very talented individual. And so he would just take a picture of an empty space in a cemetery at night and put 2 red pixels in it and be like, look, there's red eyes. Or he'd take his thumb and rub it over top of the mic while you're trying to record and ask questions. And but prior to that, I've seen quite a few scary things. I've seen and heard some crazy things in cemeteries. I've heard things over recording devices. I think some of the scariest things, though, that I've experienced have been not at cemeteries, but in situations where that stuff has followed you. So, like, one time we were at that individual's house and he just gotten this new camera and we were checking it out. And it was infrared. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. It scared the snot out of me. We're hanging out in his living room, and his son goes to run around the coffee table. Or I say walk around the coffee table. Well, in this little infrared thing, you can almost see what seems to be like a shadow behind him. And we're like, oh, it just must be his heat signature following him. And it's a perfect, like, of his body as he's going. All of a sudden, it stops, and he keeps going. Let me tell you, that will make you want to throw a $400 camera. That will scare you.
Yeah.
I just looked at his kid and I was like, "Hey, come here, buddy." His dad walked with me, and we were like, "Oh, whoa!" And you don't you don't realize all the things you're doing when you're going and you're looking for these things, and people don't think about it like that you're looking for evil. And it's doors you're opening, whether you're asking questions, using a recorder. We used to do things like we would take a candle, we would light a candle, and we would turn off every air source in the house. You're going to sweat to death or freeze to death, depending on what time of year. And we would set that candle all the way across the house from everybody. And we would check it out. We'd sit on the couch and blow as hard as you can so that candle flame wouldn't, make sure it couldn't move from anybody. And then you would ask questions, yes or no questions. And if something was there, if it's a yes, mess with the candle, mess with the flame. If it's a no, do nothing. And you'll be surprised the conversations that I have had in those moments. And I didn't realize things were following me until my first interaction. I'd gone to my Uncle Mike's house. I called him Uncle Mike, but he wasn't my uncle. And I left there and I went to my Uncle Thomas's. And my Uncle Mike, he's a Navy man, big tough guy, not afraid of nothing. Ex-military, probably slit your throat and eat a hot dog after, you know. And
Sorry.
I went to my Uncle Thomas's house and I'm hanging out over there, and Uncle Mike calls Uncle Thomas, and he is like panicking. So we go over there, and apparently what happened is he has two small dogs, or had, and they both started growling at his coffee pot. The plug unplugged itself and fell to the counter. Uncle Mike immediately panicked and called us. He knew what I had been doing. I'd been telling him about it. And we showed up, and Uncle Mike chewed me out, told me that I have to stop doing that stuff. And I've never seen that man afraid in my life, but I watched him be afraid that day. So that happened. And then fast forward some time, I have stepped away from this stuff a little bit, but I'm still going and doing it once in a while, you know. And I'm more so just doing it with my friends at this point, because at this point I realize the other individual is faking a bunch of it. Well, me and a lady I was, with at the time, we weren't married, but we were certainly living together. And, all the sinful, of course, not following God. And she had a son, and he lived there too. And there are things that went on in that house. And I'd noticed for a long time up until that I would have like random night terrors, things that would bother me. But it got worse when I lived there. There was one time in her son's bedroom, we saw a butt imprint press into his bed. There was another time, and this is going to sound crazy cliche. She had this music box, and it's set up on top of these two speakers. And we were hanging out in there one day. And I said, man, why don't you ever put that music box in your room? And she goes, because it's broken. And I said, whatever. And I get up and I look at it, and I'm like, sure enough, it's broken. I set it down. I'm like, well, it looks really cool, And we're laughing and we're cutting up. And all of a sudden, that music box starts playing music. And that scared me so bad that I threw it in the street. I was terrified. And
did it show back up in the house?
Huh?
Did it show back up in the house?
No.
Okay.
That would terrify me. And so we wind up, we go and we do that happens, and I'm, the rest of the night, I'm panicking. Even though I'm not following God, I found the Bible and I'm reading that because I'm scared. And I'm like, this is crazy. Well, I ignore it, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, then some time goes by, and you try to get used to these things because it's things you can't change. Sometimes go by and you'll be hanging out in the living room and you'll hear what sounds like child's footsteps running through the house, but there's not a child in the house at the moment. You're the only person there with your girlfriend, and that'll make you look unmanly. And so that's happened. There was one time, these two things happened all in the same night, and I'll never forget it. And it happened to me again later in life. So in her house, and she owned the house we lived in. She had inherited it. And in her house, you're sitting on the couch. The front door is off to your right-hand corner. You can look right at the front door. And I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. But anybody can tell when someone's staring at them. And I felt like something was in that doorway just screaming at me. And I was like, man, I felt really uncomfortable. I'm getting goosebumps, man. I felt super uncomfortable. I was like, something is wrong. Like, oh my gosh, And I told my girlfriend at the time, I was like, something is screaming at me over there, and I'm still not following God. So I'm like, this must be a spirit having a bad day. And she was like, I get it. And I was like, no, this is bothering me, man. This bothered me. This bothered me. Well, we go to bed that night, and she has those big, tall, 12-foot vaulted ceilings in her house. And on the living room wall are half logs. So it looks like, and they're made of real wood. It looks like a log cabin on that wall in her house. We're the only people home. Her son's with his dad. And in the living room, her bedroom is literally the other side of the wall. The bed bumps into that wall I just told you about. At the top of the wall, I hear pounding. I wake up to the sound of pounding. I scaled to the top of the bed because it scared the crap out of me from a dead sleep. Well, I jump up and I run in the living room and I swing the door open and it stops. And I've never forgotten that. And she was like, oh my gosh, what was that? Someone was hitting the wall. Somebody's in the house. I searched the whole house. There's not a soul there. Just us. Yeah. There was another night we were laying in bed. And right, that was my wife. Can you edit this, Dustin?
Maybe. Or I'm just going to continue to roll, and this is part of the podcast.
You should.
Hey, we can
I'm
talk for a second. Yeah.
Well, I'll kind of say this too. Well, go ahead, Caleb.
Oh, I was going to say real quick, one thing, when people go, and you talked about how y'all would go to cemeteries, go to people's houses and things like that. And most people and I'm sure Christians do that kind of stuff all the time too, but people don't realize the door that you're opening to the supernatural and to those spirits to attach themselves to you like that. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people, which most people aren't going to go and do that kind of stuff, but, I'm sure when I'm trying to think, I probably as a teenager,
as a
wouldn't
kid
have gone. I mean, as a kid, you go and try to do those spooky things to see what happens, but like, you got to realize that stuff's real. And you're telling us cool experience, like not cool experiences, but crazy experiences from that. But
no, absolutely.
And I'll even say, like I pulled it up and looked like Ephesians chapter 5 in verse 11. It says, do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of the darkness, but instead expose them. And that's one of the things I kind of also want to say here too, is like, we're talking about some scary stuff, but at the same time, we're exposing them for what they are. I mean, it's not a spirit that's attached to the house. It's not, it's a demon that's trying to deceive either somebody or some place, or they're just trying to deceive and get somebody to stop focusing on Christ when the whole idea is to focus on Jesus. And so it's like it's deception, and sometimes it's creepy deception. I'll say that it is, but it's just deception.
And I don't know how true this is, but I'm starting to kind of feel that depending on the person, what type of deception they're more receptive to, I guess that's going to be the type of deception they that they see, whether maybe it's UFOs or demons or anything else. I think you got to be careful, and you got to said, like you said, just test the spirits and be wary, but put your trust in God and Jesus, and that's the big thing. But you go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry about that. My wife, I forgot to tell my wife I was in a podcast, and she was trying to call me, and I was like, hold on. So I was trying to text her and be like, I'm on a podcast.
That's cool. It's good. It's good. No worries.
But yeah. So anyway, the next one that happened, I was laying in bed, and we both were, and we weren't sleeping. We were just hanging out, BSing, being, boyfriend, girlfriend couple, laughing, cutting up. Everything's fine. And we're laying on the bed and we're just talking. And I can't tell you what, but I can tell you there was no one in the house but us and her son, and he was asleep in a whole nother room. And something grabbed my foot and started yanking, and I don't mean like exorcist yanked me in the air, but it for sure yanked me smooth off that bed. And bro, that'll make you question every choice you've made up until right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
And so one of the more interesting ones in that house that I saw, so she has two doors that go into that room. One leads from the living room into the bedroom. If you keep walking straight, you'll hit another door that'll take you out of her room into the hallway. It's a little bitty hallway. To your right's the bathroom. To your left is the kitchen. Straight across is her boys' room. And her kid, he was a good kid. He's kind of a sneaky guy, and so you always look out for that little dude. But I was asleep, and I got up and I was like, man, I need to pee. So I get up and I go to the door, and I always slept in pajama pants, but it's kind of chilly. It's winter. So I crack the door open, and as I open the door, in her son's doorway, I see a figure about his size standing in the doorway. I think it's him. And I'm like, bro, go to bed. What are you doing? Well, it goes my left. Well, that's a door that opens up to a wall. Where are you going? You know what I mean? So I grabbed the robe off the back of the door. As I said, it's cold, it's winter. I put the robe on. I walk over there to tell him, bro, go to bed. I walk over there. You know when you go to your kid and your kid's like, oh, I've been asleep, or they're faking to be asleep because they don't want to be in trouble? That was not what was happening. That dude was out. I didn't even go pee. I just went back to bed. And my girlfriend was like, man, I thought you could go to the bathroom. Nope.
Not anymore. Game over, man.
Yep. I'll hold it till morning.
Yeah.
Dude, it was nothing, man. You'd hear weird stuff in that house all the time. It became a regular thing. And it became so regular that I became used to it. And you should never get used to that. And I would have, and when I say night terrors, people think of night terrors like, oh, it's a bad dream, dude. Yeah, like I 100% believe that you can be attacked in your dreams. 100%. No one will ever change my mind on that. I've experienced some crazy things.
So what were the night terrors like?
So I'll give you the best example of one, and that's with my wife. We had gotten married. Well, this was before we even got married. We were dating, and we had moved in together, and we were living at some apartments here in town. And I've always had a thing about keeping my bed like away from doors and away from windows. I've always had that forever. I don't know why. It's just a thing. But I've got my bed up against the wall of the neighboring apartment, and I've got my door closed, and the door's at the foot of the bed. I'm laying closest to the edge of the bed, and the window's on my right. And I can't tell you to this day if that was a dream or if I was awake. I don't know. But that's got to be one of the scariest. Something came through the window. I can't tell you what. It was a face, and if I could draw, I could draw it. I'll never forget it. But it wasn't like a human face. I couldn't be like, it was a guy with a beard, it was just a face.
Yeah.
And it was kind of smoky looking, and it went through the window because I didn't have blinds. And because, cheap bachelor guy, So it came through the window, and I'm looking at it. I'm like laying down and looking completely sideways, and I can't look away from it. No matter what I do, I can't look away from it. I can't scream. I can't move. I almost can't breathe. And I remember that, and I'll never forget that. And I'm trying with everything I have to move and to scream, and I can't get it out. And then it travels over my face, and it gets right here, right in my face. And then it goes away, and I sit up, and I was just pouring sweat, and I was like, just. And my at the time girlfriend, which is now my wife, was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I was so mad and so scared and so upset and just full of all these emotions. I was like, I have to go in the living room. So I went in the living room, and she followed me in there. She's like, "Dude, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about me." Like, I'm so used to this at this point, Well, some time goes on. We're in an apartment. This stuff has followed me to this apartment. I start hearing things moving in the closet. We're the only two there. She's immediately like, "That's a mouse." And I was like, "Mm-mm." That's a mouse.
Don't go in there.
Yeah, I know what that is, Well, a little time goes by, and it's an apartment, so it makes it questionable. But because it happened to me before, I knew what it was. And my neighbor would never do that. She's a sweet girl. I'd known her for years. I used to party with her. And I wound up, we were in bed together one night, and that same boom, 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 boom on the wall. And man, my wife freaked out. And all I knew to do was grab her and tell her to be quiet. And I was like, shh, shh. She's like, what was it? Someone was hitting the wall. I was like, dude, don't worry about it. It's fine. She's like, what was it? I said, I don't know, but it's fine. We're okay. We're the only people in this apartment. And she's like, how do you know? I said, it was in the room with us and there's nobody in here. So, fast forward, some time goes by. And of course, at this point, I still haven't found God. I'm still, living sinful lives, throwing parties where there's standing room only in a 1-bedroom apartment, uh, uh, I will say a quick little side note. There was one time I threw a party and they cleaned my apartment afterwards and even did the dishes that we hadn't done. It was crazy. But anyways, some time goes by and we move out of that apartment and we move into a trailer park for a little bit. And my wife had already understood, and we're married by this point. She'd understood and figured out that this is not in your head. This is real. These things are really happening. And I had grown to ignore it. She really couldn't. And I shouldn't have been ignoring it, but I was. And we would be in the trailer house, and the hallway of that trailer house felt like my bedroom at the apartment. It felt heavy. And I know that doesn't make any sense. A lot of people are like, what do you mean heavy? How does a room feel heavy? It's just hard to explain. You have to cut through it with a chainsaw, man. Felt thick, felt heavy, felt angry, felt dark. It's like an evil place. If you're a follower of Christ, you'll know what that's like. Go to a real bad place and feel like you don't need to be there, But I always felt like that, and that hallway always felt heavy, and things happened there too, and I just ignored them. And then one night, it was like the final straw. We were laying in bed, and this is another one of those things that sounds stupid, cliche, but it totally happened. We're asleep, and we both wake up to the feeling of the bed hitting the floor. And she woke up screaming. I woke up and reached over and grabbed her and said, be quiet. No, it's okay. And she was like, the bed left the ground. I was like, no, it didn't. I'm totally lying.
Yeah.
Let's go back to sleep. I have to work in the morning. I didn't go back to sleep. I was awake for the next 2 hours looking around the room, and I wound up finally crashing out. Well, the next day I talked to her about it, and I was like, hey, that totally happened. She said, I thought it did. It scared me. Why'd you lie to me? And I said, because I had to work in the morning.
Yeah.
I need to be able to go to work, and that's how normal that became to me, with that this is okay. This is fine. And I finally talked to some friends, well, I say friends, they're people that I knew, and about it, and they came over, and I learned a lesson. So in the movies, when they say, the priest is going to bless this house, you have to bless your house. You're the king of your castle. God's the only thing that can do anything. That priest doesn't have magical powers. But I learned that, and I walked through my whole house. They showed me how to do it, and I started blessing my house. That night, the house felt better, way better. And I started realizing.
Now, I guess real quick, blessing as far as how are you blessing the house, and like blessing as far as Christians? Okay.
Yeah, just pray. We're not walking through there with sage going, oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. Okay.
No. You walk through the house, man, and you pray that, God just fills this house with his love, and that Jesus is with you. And in the words of Dustin here, where light is, darkness cannot be, and
that's totally the Bible verse that was just pulled up. But,
yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Matthew 5:14, it's like, you are the light of the world, a city on the hill that cannot be hidden. And it's like, as Christians, we are the light. I mean, there is darkness. You talk about the feeling of like a heaviness. Like, man, I've been saved since I was 9, but like at the funeral home, when I was at the funeral home there, I mean, I'd walk into countless houses where it just feels like somebody is literally trying to just push you into the floorboard. I mean,
Yeah.
like right on your shoulders. Like, I mean, there's like an elephant standing on each shoulder, and like every step is just harder to take and harder to take and harder to take,
Yep.
but it's like, we have that assurance that it's like we are, as God's children. It's not like there's even another passage I haven't even looked up yet, but it's like in Acts 19:15 where it's like they're trying to cast out some demons and the demons like, Paul I know, Jesus I know, but you I do not know. It's like the only way,
Yeah.
respond. It's Jesus. They don't respond to us
Yep.
waving stuff. They don't respond to the crucifix being thrown or the holy water being splashed.
Yeah.
It's Jesus, and that's what gives us the power and the confidence to walk in the light is that Jesus lives within us.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You do. It's crazy, man. Like I said, we went through, we blessed the house. It felt amazing after that. We just walked through there and prayed and talked to God and prayed and asked that God just fill that house with his love. And whatever was there, it left. And it never came back. I've never, since that day, I have not had a single problem. It's it's nuts because people, everybody has their own feelings on stories like this, and and the thing is that I try to remind people that evil is out there. Evil is 100% out there. You may live your whole life and never encounter it, but it is there, and if you go looking for it, you will find it. Uh, it's dangerous. It's terrifying. It will change your life. It will make you a mean person. It will do so much to you. And I just it's it's one of the reasons why I don't want to say Halloween's a bad holiday. I almost don't know how to feel about Halloween. I just don't. I haven't I haven't made up my mind as a follower of Christ how I'm supposed to feel about that yet.
I mean, we've talked about it a little bit on the
Yeah.
podcast, and maybe we should do a whole episode where we discuss it again. But I mean,
Yeah. Last year we
you
did a
read
little bit.
you read verses like what I read are like, "Do not be involved with the unfruits of the darkness," and then it's like,
Yeah. That's Halloween.
you can't help but think and wonder. It's like, okay, and then you think about the whole deception thing. Go into that one of like, well, is Halloween just desensitizing us? I mean, I don't like Halloween. I don't, and we don't celebrate. As a family, we don't, and so that's kind of one of those things like conviction. Like, leave it up to conviction and what you want to do with your families. Maybe
Most
that's a shelve that episode, that podcast episode idea for maybe next week, Caleb.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just saying, man, I could get into that a little while, but I just for me, I when I think about Halloween, I have some fond memories as a kid. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of my sinful life had like there's a lot of it that I did on Halloween. Halloween's an excuse to just go sin for adults. That's what it is. Uh,
Yeah.
I learned that I I have done all kinds of dumb things. You know what I mean? But that's really what it is, and that's why on Halloween you'll see women dressed in ways they won't be in everyday public. It's an excuse to do that. Bars put on Halloween costume contests. I went to one time dressed up like Batman because I had a car that looked like the Batmobile, and we even spray painted the Batman emblem on the hood just to try to win a contest to get free beer. Like, dude, it brings a sinfulness out of everybody. And I look over today and I think about how I acted back then and all the things I encountered, and I go, man, if if God had come back then, I'm not going. I'm stuck here. You know, uh, and I think that's important. I think everybody should try to live their life like Jesus is coming today. And that's hard to do because none of us are God, none of us are Jesus. Like, we're not perfect. We're gonna make mistakes, and that's why we're saved. That doesn't mean we should go get our fill, but it is why we're saved. And uh, I do try. I I try to look away from sinful nature to the best of my abilities, and it's hard. It's pretty different, man. When you've spent a good portion of your life doing it, and you know about a lot of that other sin that a lot of people haven't had to tangle with, uh, that'll that'll change you. And you look over, and it's scary that to know that it's just a step away from me, which it's a step away for anybody, but it's really just a step away from me. Even if you were to make it simple and just say smoking, when I quit, I used to smoke cigarettes and dip together. When I quit, I was smoking 2 packs of Marlboro Red 100s a day, and I was taking a Copenhagen Wintergreen long cut, and I could go through a can in a day. I'd light
Man,
up a cigarette with a dip in my mouth. Like, um, it's crazy, man. This world we live in is so full of sin, and it's all around us, and we don't see it. And there's evil everywhere. I used to party all over 6th Street in Austin, like crazy, man. That was like the spot. We would leave on a weekend, go up there, get hammered, and then drive back. And I went there recently just for a friend of mine because it was his bachelor party, and all he wanted to do was go to the comedy club down there and then go back to the motel. And that's what we did. We went to the comedy club, we went to the motel, we swam. So we got to go watch some comedy. And I found myself walking down 6th Street and feeling that same feeling I felt behind those drums. Whenever I was playing with that band, I that same feeling of looking down the hallway and going, man, it's heavy, that same thing. And I just looked at the sky and I said, God, I know where I'm not supposed to be. I pray that you'll protect me and you'll forgive me. Maybe I shouldn't have come to this bachelor party, but it's too late. I'm here, and I just want you to get me through this, God. Man, 10 years ago, you'd have never heard that come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I'd have been, bro, there's a mechanical bull in this one, That's how many times I've been down there. I can probably walk you through each bar. Like,
Gosh. That's what I'll just go. That's one of my favorite parts about you, Justin, is it's like you drop this like heaviness of like, man, God, get me through this. And then like the next sentence, you're like, hey man, there's a mechanical bull right over there.
Yeah.
I'll say we're probably right about our time here. We've been at it for about an hour, but man, this has been awesome. I mean, I love hearing your testimony, Justin, and even just because I know me and you've sat in cars and working and stuff and just kind of like talked through a lot of this stuff anyway. And it's interesting because like, like my experience when you talk about like the supernatural, when you talk about like demons and stuff, it's all as a Christian. It's stuff that I've experienced,
Right.
on this side of Christ. And it's like, it's really interesting to kind of hear it from your perspective where it's like, well, at the time I just thought it was this. And then now looking back on, from this side of Christ, looking back on all that experience, it's like, that's not what that was. And so,
Yeah.
well, I guess it's probably, you got anything you want to close us out with, Justin, before we head on out of here?
Just, man, anybody hearing this, just do your best. Do your best to follow Christ and try to be Christ-like. Being a Christian's cool and all, but there's plenty of people in this world that call themselves Christians, go to church on Sunday, and then go back to their sinful nature. Try to be Christ-like. We're not going to achieve that, but you should try. That's the goal. You want to try to be as much like him. And if you don't feel the conviction to do that, then you're probably just going through the motions, and you need to pray. You need to pray about it.
Man, it's awesome.
And I'll real quick say, I want to read James 4:7-8. It says, and this kind of sounds like what you did, and it started the process of that darkness leaving you, and maybe on your journey, but it says, so humble yourselves before God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and God will come close to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's beautiful.
Well, on that note, I guess that's probably a good spot to end it here. So thank you for talking to us, Justin. Definitely won't be the last time.
Absolutely.
We got to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. I guess Justin does have a podcast, if you want to plug your podcast for a second.
Yes. Yeah. So we just started a podcast called Twisted Wires. We're on Rumble, and very soon we'll be on YouTube. We just recorded our first episode, so if my buddy hasn't already posted it, it will be posted probably within the next day or so. Super excited. We're just a couple of average people talking about the world, we do some cool stuff on there. We talk about sports, we talk about Christianity and politics and religion. There's a lot of God talk on there, and as you heard from Dustin and Caleb earlier, if you're around me, we're going to talk about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help it, man. We do a lot of things, man. We even have a small little, like a little soundboard that we make sounds with. Like, it's fun. We have a good time, man. We really do.
Sweet. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Justin. And I guess this is the end. Awkward part about ending a podcast, right?
Quick silence now.
Thank you guys for listening to Raising the Wild Ones podcast. I know me and Caleb are just a couple of redneck theologians, right? kind of came up with that term a little while ago, and it's just kind of making us laugh. But that's really just what we are, right? Every single one of us is a theologian. Sit there and just think about the Bible, and me and Caleb are rednecks, so that makes us Redneck Theologians. And so we just thank you guys for listening to us. And if you want to just give us a holler and let us know about topics you may want to listen to, or things you may want to say, or if you have an idea for a guest host, or if you yourself want to be a guest host, just drop us a line. Just let us know. Just give us a ring on the old telly. Actually, not really. We don't have a cell phone number, right? But we do have an email, and you can send us an email, right, at raisingwildonespodcast@gmail.com. There'll be a link for that podcast down in the description. And so just kind of click on that and just let us know what you guys want to hear from us. And we like to hear from you guys too. We like to know what you guys think of our podcast. And so also just tell your friends, share it on social media. Just let people know when you're sitting down having a cup of coffee with your hunting buddies or fishing buddies. Just say, hey guys, listen to this podcast. It's these two rednecks, and they're kind of weird sometimes, but it's fine because they talk about some cool stuff. And so just let people know, and that's how the word gets out, and that's how it gets shared. So we just thank you guys so much for your support and for listening to us. And yeah, tune in next time for more from the Redneck Theologians.
Hey, Wild Ones. Do you love what you've been hearing? Are deep dives into theology, Bible stories, and the Word of God? If so, we need your help. For just $6 a month, which is less than a cup of coffee these days, you can join our Patreon community. It's a simple but powerful way to support our mission of sharing the gospel with as many people as possible. And when you join, you'll get some awesome perks like early access to episodes, detailed show notes, and even biblically accurate coloring pages you won't find anywhere else, trust me. Plus, we're giving 10% of everything we receive straight to missions, so your support goes even further. So click the link below in the show notes and join us on Patreon today. Let's keep raising the wild ones together.